Judge recognizes childhood friend on trial. What happens next will shock everyone. The courtroom was buzzing with anticipation. Papers shuffled, quiet whispers rippled through the gallery, and a gavel's echo from another chamber filled the air. Judge Eleanor Hayes sat high at the bench, her hands resting firmly on polished oak, her expression calm and professional. Another day, another case. That's what she told herself. The bailiff's voice rang out clearly. The state of Louisiana versus James Anderson. Eleanor straightened, opening the file in front of her. Assault, robbery, resisting arrest. The usual. Another lost soul tangled in the system, she thought. But the moment the door opened and the defendant stepped in, Eleanor's world tilted. The man in shackles was not a stranger. It was him, James Anderson, her childhood friend. Her throat tightened as a flood of old memories crashed over her. Hot summer afternoons racing down dusty streets, secret midnight talks under the magnolia tree, whispered promises to always have each other's backs. But the man standing in front of her wasn't the carefree boy she once knew. His shoulders were slumped, his face hardened by life, but those eyes, the same deep, soulful eyes, were unmistakable. For the first time in her career, Eleanor's grip on the gavel faltered. The courtroom suddenly felt smaller, the walls pressing in. James raised his head just enough to meet her gaze. Recognition flickered, and then he looked away, lowering his head with quiet resignation. The room fell into silence. Eleanor forced herself to speak. Mr. Anderson, you stand accused of assault and robbery. How do you plead? His voice was raspy, tired. Not guilty, Your Honor. Her heart pounded, but her face remained steady. Proceed, she said, though the word tasted heavy on her tongue. As the prosecutor began the opening statement, Eleanor's mind drifted back to Hammond. Their hometown, a place divided not by distance, but by lines that. Finally, James stood to testify. The shackles clinked softly as he made his way to the stand. His voice cracked but was firm. I've made mistakes, trusted the wrong people, but I didn't do this. They didn't even ask. They just decided I was the one. I've spent my life fighting to be seen as more than a label. I just want the truth to matter. The courtroom fell utterly silent. Eleanor felt his words strike something deep within her. The boy who once dreamed of leaving Hammond was now a man fighting to be heard. Closing arguments came like a storm. The prosecutor urged the jury to trust the system. Lisa begged them to see the man, not the assumptions. Hours passed as the jury deliberated. The room emptied, refilled, and quieted again. James sat motionless, hands clenched. Eleanor could barely breathe. Finally, the foreperson returned with the verdict. In the case of the state of Louisiana versus James Anderson, we find the defendant not guilty. The air broke with gasps and murmurs. James's shoulders sagged as if a mountain had lifted off him. Eleanor's gavel came down sharply. The jury has spoken. Mr. Anderson, you are free to go. The crowd slowly trickled out, but James stayed. He approached the bench, his voice low. You don't owe me anything. But why didn't you say something? You knew me. Eleanor's throat burned. Because I couldn't. If I had, it could have destroyed the case. I had to be fair. James gave a faint, bitter smile. Fair. The world's never been fair. Not for people like me. She lowered her eyes to the polished wood. You're right. I wish I had done more back then. I wish I could have done more now. James nodded slowly, turned, and walked toward the courthouse doors. No chains this time. Just silence and the weight of years between them. Eleanor sat alone in the empty courtroom, the last rays of sunlight painting the floor in gold. She had upheld the law. But justice was something deeper. It wasn't just about verdicts. Were never spoken aloud. She lived behind a white picket fence. He lived down a dirt road. Their friendship had been a quiet rebellion in a segregated town. She remembered the first day they met. A creek, a tangled fishing line, a smile. You ever think about leaving this place? James had once asked under a starry sky. She laughed then. He didn't. Even as a boy, he saw the world's weight clearly. But their bond didn't survive forever. One summer night, her father caught them talking on the porch. His voice had been cold. Eleanor inside. Now. James had frozen. Go on, he whispered. I'll see you around. But they never did. James's family moved away. Eleanor buried herself in ambition. Law school, hard work, justice. But she never forgot him. And now, here he was accused of a violent crime. The prosecutor laid out the case with sharp precision. The clerk at a convenience store had been assaulted. The cash register emptied. James was arrested nearby. But as Eleanor looked at him, she felt a gnawing doubt. Lisa Porter, the defense attorney, rose confidently. The prosecution wants you to believe this case is simple, she told the jury. But it's not. There's more to the story. The store clerk testified. A man in a red hoodie, an argument, a lunge over the counter. But under cross-examination, he admitted he couldn't see the suspect's face clearly. The surveillance footage was shown next. Blurry, poor lighting, a figure in red. Nothing solid. James's alibi was shaky. A friend too afraid to testify. The jury's faces were a mix of skepticism and uncertainty. Then came Officer Daniel Harris, the arresting officer. Lisa pressed him hard. He admitted he arrested James simply because he fit the description. No red hoodie was ever recovered. No physical evidence. Just assumptions. Then the forensic analyst took the stand. The figure in the video couldn't be clearly identified. The timestamps had been altered. A shadow of doubt spread through the room. It was about people. About lives shaped long before they ever entered a courtroom. As she stepped out onto the courthouse steps, she made a quiet promise to herself. She couldn't rewrite the past, but she could fight for a better future. One where fairness wasn't just a word in a courtroom, but a reality for people like James.